Forget the sunlit pyramids. Forget the quiet stones of Salisbury. Deep within the predatory maw of the Lake Michigan Triangle, a void that turns massive ships into ghosts and divers into dust, lies a discovery that defies human history. Imagine this. 40 feet beneath the crushing, frozen currents, a 9,000-year-old stone titan stands sentinel in the dark. Etched upon its face is the primal shadow of a mastodon, a colossal beast extinct for 10 millennia, marking a sacred hunting ground of blood and spirit never meant for human eyes. In this silent void, as modern technology and courage fail, a chilling question remains. Are we daring explorers, or simply the next meal for something that refuses to stay buried? Then join me until the very end. Let's dive deep together and uncover the truth that Lake Michigan is finally ready to reveal. Lake Michigan is often passed down in stories as swallowing divers, and this is why this particular area of Lake Michigan remains one of the most beautiful, yet terrifying frontiers on our planet. It is not merely the biting cold or the unpredictable, swirling currents that claim the unwary. It is the absolute crushing weight of the unknown that sits heavy on the chest of anyone who dares to plunge beneath the surface. It all started in the year 2022. A dedicated team of researchers from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and the Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory set out with a mission that seemed, on the surface, quite straightforward. Map the lake's uncharted bottom and search for the broken remains of historic shipwrecks. They were looking for the debris of human history, rotting oak, rusted iron, and the lost cargo of a bygone industrial era. They expected to find the typical somber scenery of the deep, endless stretches of featureless sand, jagged patches of rock, and the silt-covered wood of fallen schooners. But as they neared the dark, central heart of the lake, what appeared on their high-resolution side-scan sonar screen stopped them cold. These were not the jagged, linear silhouettes of a shipwreck. Instead, strange, circular shapes began to emerge from the acoustic data. Shapes so perfect, so geometrically precise, and so massive that the idea of them being a mere accident of nature felt like a scientific lie. These massive craters were hiding 500 feet beneath the surface in a realm where the water pressure is so immense it would crush an unprotected human lung in seconds. Here, the water turns a dense, impenetrable black, a color so dark it seems to absorb the very soul of the observer. These aren't just small dips or ripples in the sand. We are talking about colossal voids ranging from 300 to 600 feet wide, large enough to swallow entire city blocks, cathedrals, or modern football stadiums. They plunge nearly 40 feet deep into the lakebed, and they are not scattered at random. There are dozens of them, nearly 40 in total, arranged in a neat, eerie line stretching generally southward. On the sonar monitors, they look less like geological anomalies and more like the deliberate, heavy footprints of giants who once walked across the floor of the world and then vanished into the silt. For 2 long years, the team could only stare at these grainy, 2-dimensional sonar images, wondering what they had truly stumbled upon. Then, in August 2024, the mystery deepened as technology finally caught up with human curiosity. Using a remotely operated vehicle, ROV, equipped with ultra-sensitive low-light cameras and powerful LED arrays, they sent a mechanical eye down to face these formations for the first time. The footage was haunting. No one in the recorded history of the Great Lakes had ever seen anything quite like this. As the ROV's lights cut through the ancient darkness, illuminating the steep, silt-covered walls of the craters, the team was forced to ask the impossible. What could have created this? Are they ancient remnants of a cataclysmic geological event lost to time? Or is there a much more complex, perhaps even biological or chemical process at play beneath the silent surface? The theories began to emerge, each one more fascinating and bone-chilling than the last. The first scientific possibility is that we are looking at massive sinkholes, also known as dolines. Lake Michigan sits on a massive bedrock of limestone, a soft, vulnerable stone composed of calcium carbonate that is easily dissolved by the chemical action of water over vast geological periods. Imagine it like poking a straw through the plastic lid of a drink. Over thousands of years, slightly acidic groundwater seeps through the subterranean fractures, slowly dissolving the rock beneath the surface and creating massive, hidden voids underground. When the surface layer can no longer hold its own weight against the crushing pressure of the lake above, it caves in, forming a perfect, circular hole. We have seen similar phenomena before in Lake Huron, but the craters in Michigan are fundamentally different. They are far more massive, and their arrangement, that calculated straight line heading south, doesn't follow the chaotic, random rules of typical geological collapse. It's as if nature decided to abandon its own laws of randomness at the bottom of this lake to build something intentional, something structural. Then, there is the second theory, one that takes us back to the frozen dawn of the world, the glaciers. 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age, this entire region was not a lake, but a battleground for wild rivers of ice, colossal, mile-high bulldozers that reshaped the very face of the earth. These glaciers moved with an immense grinding weight that could scoop out entire valleys and flatten mountains. If these glaciers moved across what is now the basin of Lake Michigan, they could have carved out these deep holes in spots where the bedrock was softer or more fractured. Usually, glacial movement leaves behind what geologists call chatter marks, rounded, crescent-shaped depressions that indicate the direction of the ice flow. But these craters are perfectly circular, defying the traditional smearing effect of moving ice. Once the ice melted and the Great Lakes formed, these holes filled with water, becoming a submerged part of our planet's hidden history. Yet, even this theory feels like a piece of a puzzle that doesn't quite fit the perfection of the circles we see today. But perhaps the most chilling and beautiful part of this discovery isn't the geology. It's the life that chooses to survive in a place where life, by all our rules, shouldn't exist. The craters are not just holes, they are biological time capsules. Deep inside these voids, the environment is dangerously low in oxygen, a lighter, freshwater version of the extreme anoxic conditions found at hydrothermal vents in the darkest corners of the Pacific Ocean. Yet, in this harsh, lightless world, some organisms don't just survive, they thrive in the absolute silence. The sonar and ROVs have detected a handful of resilient creatures that call these craters home. There is the opossum shrimp, Mysis diluviana, tiny, translucent beings that carry their young in a pouch, just like their marsupial namesake. They migrate through the water column, fleeing the light and seeking the safety of the craters. There is the deep water sculpin, a small, bizarre-looking, bottom-dwelling fish that has evolved to withstand the crushing pressure and absolute dark. And then, there are the invasive quagga mussels, billions of tiny shells that carpet the lake floor, filtering the water and attaching themselves to every hard surface, competing for space in this desolate, underwater kingdom. But even smaller, and perhaps more significant, are the microbes and bacteria that inhabit the silt at the bottom of these craters. These microscopic life forms are specially adapted to oxygen-poor conditions, behaving much like the organisms that flourished in Earth's ancient oceans billions of years ago, long before the atmosphere was rich with the air we breathe. By studying the life within these craters, we are essentially looking into a mirror of our own primordial past. We are seeing a glimpse of how life once flourished in a hot, toxic, oxygen-poor world long before the first ancestor of man ever walked the earth. This region is a Pompeii of the Ice Age, a scene frozen in time, protected by the cold, fresh water that prevents these secrets from decaying or being washed away by the tides of time. The question is, are we ready for what we might find next? The journey into the dark has only just begun. Stay with me, for the secrets of the dark water are finally ready to be told. In the year 1886, a 140-foot wooden titan named the F.J. King didn't just sink. She vanished into the obsidian heart of Lake Michigan. For nearly a century and a half, she was more than a shipwreck. She was a ghost, a legend whispered among those who know that these waters never truly let go of what they claim. This vessel was once the pulsing heart of Wisconsin's golden era, the heavy lifter of the breadbasket of America. During a time when Wisconsin produced an incredible 1/6 of the entire nation's wheat, the F.J. King was the lifeblood of progress. For 19 years, she was a symbol of human ambition, hauling grain and iron ore through the treacherous narrow locks of the Welland Canal. She was essential. She was invincible. And then, in a single night of predatory fury, she was gone. The nightmare began on September 15th, 1886. As the F.J. King labored toward Chicago, her hull groaning under the suffocating weight of a massive iron ore cargo, the sky turned a bruised, ominous purple. Without warning, the lake unleashed its wrath. 10-foot walls of freezing water hammered the wooden planks with the force of 1,000 sledgehammers. Inside the hold, the air grew thick with the scent of wet oak and raw terror. The crew fought until their muscles screamed, pumping water back into the darkness, but the lake was faster, colder, and more relentless. By 2 a.m., in an abyss where the horizon and the water became one, Captain William Griffin gave the final, chilling command: abandon ship. As the men escaped in a fragile yawlboat, they witnessed a scene of cinematic horror. The F.J. King surrendered bow first, tilting sharply into the freezing deep. Then, a violent explosion of trapped air shattered the silence of the storm. The stern deck house was blown clean off by sheer pressure, launching the captain's private papers 50 feet into the night sky like ghosts of a life once lived. In seconds, their home was swallowed. They were eventually rescued by the schooner La Petite, but the F.J. King remained below, transitioning from a pride of industry into a shroud of mystery. When the survivors reached Bailey's Harbor, the enigma began. Captain Griffin swore the ship sank 5 miles offshore. Yet, a week later, a local lighthouse keeper claimed to see the masts of a sunken schooner ghosting the surface much closer to the coast. This discrepancy sparked a debate that would haunt maritime history for 139 years. Hunters chased the ghost ship for decades, lured by a $1,000 reward in the 1970s, but the lake refused to yield its prize. It was as if the FJ King had drifted into another dimension, leaving behind nothing but questions. The silence was finally shattered on June 28, 2025. Investigator Brendan Baylod assembled a team of 20 experts to do what no one else could: outsmart the lake. Baylod realized the captain had been blinded by trauma and total darkness. His coordinates were merely a desperate guess. Baylod turned his focus to the calm, steady eyes of the 1886 lighthouse keeper. Armed with super advanced side-scan sonar, the team scanned the dark floor. After only 2 hours, a shape emerged from the void, distinct, unmistakable, and hauntingly beautiful. It was her. The revelation was staggering. They found the FJ King less than half a mile from where the lighthouse keeper had pointed over a century ago. But it was the state of the wreck that froze the blood of the researchers. Typically, a ship carrying iron ore is pulverized by the impact, shattered into 1,000 splinters by the weight of its own cargo. But the FJ King was a miracle of preservation. Her hull stood almost completely intact, a majestic wooden monument standing sentinel in the dark. As archaeologists moved in to create a 3D model, they found a sight that moved them to tears. Scattered across the lake bottom, preserved by the icy freshwater grave, were the crew's personal belongings and kitchenware. A dinner plate, a cup, a personal memento, all lying exactly where they had fallen the moment the world ended for the men of the FJ King. It was a domestic scene frozen in time, a silent witness to a tragedy that history almost forgot. The FJ King is no longer a ghost. She is a witness to the power of the water and the enduring spirit of those who refuse to let the past stay buried. My dear friends, just when we thought the mysteries of Lake Michigan were limited to the iron and wood of fallen ships, the water revealed something far older, a silent, stony witness that challenges our entire understanding of human history and the very timeline of civilization in the New World. Deep within the emerald heart of Grand Traverse Bay, lying 40 feet beneath the surface, where the light begins to fail, researchers stumbled upon a discovery that felt like a profound glitch in time itself. It wasn't the jagged ribs of a shipwreck or the debris of a modern disaster. It was a monument, an intentional arrangement of granite that breathed with the spirit of a forgotten age. Imagine the scene as the sonar first cut through the murky green gloom. 2 massive concentric circles of stones emerging from the lakebed like the skeletal remains of a prehistoric crown. This is no random pile of rocks tossed by the chaotic currents of the Great Lakes. These stones were placed there with surgical precision, purposefully and painstakingly by human hands that moved with a vision we can only begin to guess at. Carbon dating and rigorous geological analysis suggest this structure is over 9,000 years old. To put that into perspective for you, this underwater monument predates the famous Stonehenge in England by a staggering 4,000 years. It predates the Great Pyramids of Giza. It belongs to an era when the world was a vastly different, more primal place, yet it speaks of a people who possessed a sophisticated grasp of geometry and permanence. But the real chill down the spine, the moment where science meets the supernatural, comes from a single massive boulder within this formation. Etched onto its cold, weathered surface is a faint but unmistakable petroglyph, the haunting image of a mastodon. These colossal, elephant-like beasts have been extinct on this planet for over 10,000 years. For this carving to exist, the artist had to be standing right there, on what was then dry land, looking a living, breathing mastodon in the eye as he struck stone against stone. At the end of the last ice age, this part of the bay was not a lake but a lush, fertile valley. Scientists at Northwestern Michigan University and the University of Michigan have proposed a theory that is as brilliant as it is primitive. These stones weren't just for worship or ritual. They were a high-tech hunting trap of the ancient world. By forming a drive lane, a narrow, strategic corridor, these early hunters could herd massive, powerful animals like the mastodon into a tighter circle, a killing zone where they could be more easily overcome. Yet, if you speak to the local Anishinaabe tribes, they will tell you a different story. To them, these stones are not mere tools or traps. They are grandfathers, living beings, and sacred ancestors placed there to honor the eternal, unbreakable connection between the land, the water, and the spirit. Whether it was a bloody hunting ground or a cathedral of stone, it stands today as a haunting, submerged sentinel of a civilization drowned by the rising tides of time, reminding us that we are walking over the graves of a world we never knew. As we move from the ancient ruins of the bay into the vast, open expanse of Lake Michigan, we enter an area that many seasoned sailors refuse to name, fearing that even the mention of it might invite the lake's predatory wrath. The Lake Michigan Triangle. Spanning over 22,000 square miles, nearly two-thirds the size of Ireland, this area is a notorious hotspot for the unexplained, a geographical anomaly where the laws of nature seem to bend and warp. It is a place where the line between reality and the paranormal blurs into the thick, sudden fogs that can appear even on the calmest days. For decades, the Triangle has been blamed for a staggering, disproportionate number of disappearances that defy logical explanation. It isn't just ships that the lake claims, it is airplanes too. The most infamous and bone-chilling case remains the disappearance of Northwest Airlines, Flight 2501 in 1950. Carrying 58 souls, the plane simply vanished from radar. No wreckage was ever recovered from the depths. No bodies ever washed ashore. There was just a sudden, terrifying silence that persists to this day. Witnesses across the coast have reported eerie, dancing lights above the waves and magnetic anomalies so powerful that they make modern compasses spin in useless, frantic circles as if some invisible vortex were pulling at the very fabric of the Earth. Some call it a magnetic anomaly. Others call it a predatory force that actively hunts those who stray too far from the shore. Whatever the truth may be, the Triangle stands as a humbling reminder that even with our modern satellites and global positioning systems, there are parts of this lake that remain off the grid, guarded by a darkness we cannot illuminate. But even in the heart of this mysterious, hungry void, the lake occasionally chooses to surrender its prizes, perhaps as a peace offering to the living. In May 2023, a massive archaeological breakthrough occurred just off the shores of Algoma, Wisconsin, bringing an end to a century of searching. The Wisconsin Underwater Archaeological Association announced they had finally located the long-lost wreck of the Margaret A. Muir. Built in 1872, the Muir was a sturdy, three-masted schooner, a 130-foot wooden titan designed to carry the heaviest cargo across the unforgiving Great Lakes. Her final voyage began as a routine trip, loaded with bulk salt from Bay City, Michigan, bound for the docks of South Chicago. But on September 30th, 1893, the lake showed its teeth. As the ship approached the town then known as Anapi, a sudden, violent storm struck with a ferocity that no wooden hull could withstand. The Muir took on water with terrifying speed, her seams groaning under the pressure of the waves. The captain, recognizing the inevitable, gave the order to abandon ship, and miraculously, the crew made it to the safety of the shore just as the lake swallowed their livelihood. For 130 years, her location remained a secret, a ghost hidden beneath the shifting sands and freezing waves. But using high-resolution side-scan sonar, researchers finally found her sitting only 50 feet below the surface. The state of preservation is nothing short of breathtaking. Because of the unique, cold, freshwater environment of Lake Michigan, the Muir has been spared the decay typical of ocean wrecks. Parts of the deck and original gear are still visible, looking almost exactly as they did the moment the crew jumped for their lives into the freezing spray. The Margaret A. Muir is no longer a legend of the Triangle or a name on a lost-at-sea list. She is a tangible, wooden piece of history reclaimed from the abyss. She stands as a silent witness to the unpredictable, lethal fury that Lake Michigan guards so fiercely, reminding us that while we may map the lakebed, we can never truly tame the spirit that dwells within it. As we continue to peel back the layers of this frozen world, we must ask ourselves, what other secrets are waiting in the dark? And are we truly ready to face the truths they might reveal? But Lake Michigan is not a solitary titan in its mystery. It is merely one chamber in a vast, interconnected cathedral of water. To understand the true, staggering scale of the secrets held within these inland seas, we must turn our gaze eastward to Lake Huron. We must recognize that we are not just looking at a collection of separate lakes, but at a massive, submerged continent, a vast, interconnected graveyard of both fallen ships and lost civilizations. If Lake Michigan is a place of ghosts, magnetic anomalies, and abyssal craters, then Lake Huron is a freshwater time capsule that freezes the very dawn of human history in its icy, oxygen-poor embrace. It is beneath these waves that we find the undeniable proof that our ancestors were not merely primitive survivors struggling against the elements, but master navigators and sophisticated engineers of a continent-wide trade and hunting network that existed 10,000 years ago, long before the first stone was laid for the pyramids. In the year 2013, a group of underwater archaeologists and geologists pulled a seemingly insignificant chunk of mud from the bottom of Lake Huron. It was no larger than a common milk carton, recovered from a depth of 100 feet beneath the surface. Inside that cold gray silt, they discovered something that fundamentally disrupted the established narrative of North American prehistory: 2 sharp, glassy flakes of obsidian. For those who don't know, obsidian is a shiny, black volcanic glass that only forms under specific volcanic conditions that do not exist anywhere near the Great Lakes region. After rigorous chemical fingerprinting and laboratory testing, the revelation was staggering. These tiny flakes had traveled over 2,500 miles, 4,000 kilometers, all the way from Central Oregon. Think deeply about the implications of that distance in an era 10 millennia ago. A world without engines, without horses, and without metal tools. This wasn't a random, isolated find. It was the smoking gun of a prehistoric trade network that spanned the entire North American continent. Those 2 tiny flakes landed on the ground unnoticed 10,000 years ago when the lakebed was still dry land, only to be reclaimed in our time as messengers from a sophisticated, lost world. The site of this incredible discovery is a submerged landform known as the Alpina Amberley Ridge. Today, it lies silent and deep underwater, but 10,000 years ago, as the last great ice age began to fade, it was a massive dry land bridge connecting what we now know as Michigan and Ontario. This was a corridor of life. Early humans stood on this ridge, not as victims of the wilderness, but as architects of the hunt. They built sophisticated V-shaped stone structures, drive lanes, designed to herd thousands of caribou across the valley into strategic killing zones. Because of the unique, cold, and anaerobic, oxygen-poor environment at the bottom of Lake Huron, this site has become what scientists call an underwater Pompeii. Divers and researchers have not just found stone tools, they have found ancient trees with their roots still firmly intact, as if they were still waiting for a spring that never came. They have found peat bogs that have preserved seeds, pine needles, and delicate leaves for nearly 10 millennia. It is a scene frozen in a moment of geological time, protected from decay by the very water that eventually submerged it. The Michigan research team is currently collaborating with geneticists in Cambridge, England, to extract DNA from these ancient remains, hoping to finally reconstruct the exact environment, the flora, and the creatures that lived alongside our ancestors on this ancient, drowned bridge. But the Alpina Amberley Ridge is only one small, albeit brilliant, chapter in a much larger and more tragic story of the Great Lakes. When we look at this entire system as a whole, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario, we are looking at a landscape defined by human ambition met with natural disaster. During the 1800s alone, the peak of the North American Industrial Revolution, an estimated 6,000 ships were damaged, sunk, or destroyed across these waters. 6,000 vessels. That is not just a dry statistic for history books. It is a catalog of 6,000 individual nightmares, 6,000 moments of pure, unadulterated terror, and 6,000 families whose lives were shattered in an instant by the sudden, predatory fury of these lakes. These waters were the highways of the New World, carrying the iron for the railroads and the grain to feed a growing nation. But the toll they took was immense. From the sturdy, oak-hulled schooners of the breadbasket era, like the F.J. King and the Margaret A. Muir, to massive modern steel freighters and even military airplanes, the lake beds are littered with the iron and wood of our collective past. And yet, the most terrifying and humbling fact is how little we actually know about this world beneath us. Despite our advanced satellites, our global positioning systems, and our deep-sea submersibles, only about 15% of the Great Lakes floor has been explored and mapped with any level of detail. That means 85% of this underwater world, a territory vast enough to hide entire cities, unknown geological wonders, and thousands of lost stories, is still a total obsidian mystery. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of shipwrecks, representing the biggest secrets the lakes have to offer, are still waiting in the dark, silent and undisturbed, protected by the cold and the silt. Thankfully, the long era of silence is finally coming to an end. We are standing on the threshold of a new golden age of discovery, where more shipwrecks and archaeological sites are being found today than at any other time in human history. This renaissance is fueled by a massive, high-tech initiative called Lake Bed 2030. The goal is as ambitious as it is necessary: to map the entire floor of the Great Lakes in high-resolution detail by the year 2030. This isn't just a mission for government professionals or elite scientists. The very profile of the modern-day shipwreck hunter has changed. Advances in technology have made high-resolution side-scan sonar and remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, more accessible and affordable than ever before. Amateurs, local historians, and tech-savvy divers are now joining the search, driven not by desire for gold or jewels, but by a hunger to recover the historical and emotional value of these lost vessels. As we deploy these underwater robots and engage in sophisticated digital mapping, we are finally seeing the lakebed in a way that was fundamentally impossible for the captains of the 1800s. We are seeing the Lake Michigan Triangle and the mysterious craters not as terrifying supernatural voids, but as geological and historical puzzles that are finally ready to be solved. We are realizing that the Great Lakes are not just barriers of water or dangerous obstacles to trade, but a vast, liquid archive of human ambition, continent-wide trade, and ancestral survival. The discovery of the F.J. King, the 9,000-year-old underwater Stonehenge, and the Oregon obsidian in Lake Huron are all deeply connected. They tell us that our history with these waters is much deeper, more dangerous, and more complex than we ever dared to imagine. The Great Lakes might still be hiding their biggest secrets, but with Lakebed 2030, we are finally equipped to listen to what the dark water has been trying to tell us for centuries. Before concluding today's message, I want to say thank you for venturing into this emerald abyss with me. Your curiosity is the light that pierces this ancient darkness. If you have a personal story of a maritime tragedy, a family legend passed down through generations, or even a mysterious sighting from these dark waters, please share it in the comments below. Your voice is what keeps these memories alive and prevents these souls from being forgotten. If this journey into the deep has moved you or sparked a new sense of wonder, please like, share, and follow us for our next deep dive into the unknown. I am truly honored to be your guide through these submerged chronicles. I will see you in our next video as we continue to listen to the whispers of the deep. Until then, stay curious and remember, the answers are down there, waiting in the silence.